Hello and welcome to Zgermanguy Reviews. I'm Zgermanguy. If you have been online for a long period of time, you may have encountered this loaf of bread, and your first reaction rightfully was, what the fuck am I looking at? Well, it's from a children's TV show, and your first thought upon hearing that was probably, this looks like a no fun having literal square. This is the perfect German character. And it is. This is Bernd the Bread, a manic depressed icon, beloved by youngsters and adults alike. But we need to first take a few steps back. Bernd started out in Great Stuff, a 7 minutes each episodic series with his two co-moderators, Chili the Sheep and Briegel the Bush. If you can't figure out which one is which, I'm going to buy one of those bongs from High on Life and smoke you personally. Great Stuff was mocking infomercial shows for a whole decade, and with no less than 242 episodes. The premise was basically always the same. Bernd volunteers to test the product of the week. They have a quick talk, and then the device malfunctions and he is tortured enormously. And he wakes up every single day knowing that he is going to do this for the rest of eternity. Imagine every Squidward, every Sylvester the Cat, every rabbit, and multiply it by 1,000, and that is Bernd. Basically, the creator set out to make the most miserable person to have ever lived. How miserable? In later years, they made a series of shorts that would play on the kids' channel late at night on an infinite loop until the actual program started again, titled Bernd in Hell, which has Bernd trapped in a white void he cannot escape from, where he endures endless suffering. So you can understand when I tell you that his catchphrase is just mist. Crap. Before that, it was, I have seen oceans of nightmares. And when I looked up, I saw the face of God. But there was no love in his eyes. Only hatred. Later, there would be another show with the trio focusing on their home life, with all kinds of zany characters. Throughout the years, they would also make tons and tons of movie parodies. And we are going to look at some of them these following months. And believe me, I would love to do all of them, but most of the DVDs are sold out, so I'm just going to do the ones that I could get my hands on. So butter up your buns. This is Bernd the Bread. Our first movie is The Man with the Two Noses. You can never introduce your kids too early to body horror. But first, I just have to mention this great moment from the menu that made me smile. Bernd asking me straightforward, what on earth is wrong with me? Using my hard-earned money to buy a DVD like this. Don't you think I ask myself the same thing? Every single day? We really begin in Bernd's apartment, with a bloody print on the wall. Our friendly Bread holding a knife, having no idea what happened. Taco Tuesday. Suddenly, a police squad storms in, accusing Bernd of murdering his neighbor. Once again, the justice system is biased against weed people! The first day of the trial begins, and his best friends tell him they are going to be his lawyers, because real ones are too expensive anyway. Who needs years of Jura studies if you can buy a How to Be a Lawyer cassette?
There is logic in what he says.
Also, Bernd doesn't even have any money left after they took his credit card on their vacation that they won. But they don't remember entering any contest. Now those are some real, wait for it, breadcrumbs. The prosecutor, a certain Mr. Executioner, makes his opening statement. while the neighbor is nowhere to be found, all the evidence points to the loaf on the bench, which Briegel finds to be so very excellently presented and argued.
Mensch, das ist eine tolle Art zu reden. So mitreißend. Und seine Argumente so stichhaltig, plausibel, brillant formuliert.
Busch, warum tauscht ihr nicht einfach die Plätze? Das würde allen Beteiligten was bringen.
Immer unter uns, Bernd. Das traue ich mir noch nicht zu.
Our friendship is like your body. It got spikes. To buy some time, the group wants the scene of the crime to be searched again until they can figure out what to do. It makes things infinitely worse, cause they find a bunch of murder weapons, writing on the wall that says, "I did it," and a creepy voodoo doll. Well, the last one might just be like Helga Pataki's shrine. An expression of love, albeit a very unhealthy one. Meanwhile, Bernd is getting flashbacks of a faceless man with 2 noses and a round circle with 2 eyes, but he has no idea what they mean. But Chili figures it could be the answers they need, so he has to keep trying to remember while they keep on working on the case.
Ladies and gentlemen of this supposed jury, I have one final thing I want you to consider. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Chewbacca. Chewbacca is a Wookiee from the planet Kashyyyk, but Chewbacca lives on the planet Endor. Now think about that. That does not make sense.
Damn it. What? He's using the Chewbacca defense.
Next up is cross-examination. All the neighbors claim that Bernd hated the new neighbor, and they were constantly fighting. Upon asking further questions, it turns out that all the neighbors say the same thing. They heard it from a guy, who heard it from a guy, who heard it from a guy, who heard it from somewhere. No one has actually seen them fight. And none of them will stop for 1 second to do some self-reflection and be gossiping by the next day. I hate humans. Fittingly, Bernd in this very moment also remembered that he and his neighbor were bestest of friends. He shared all of his hobbies, in fact, collecting recordings of Germany's most boring train stations, playing a board game without dice where everybody only moves 1 place each. More like board game, eh? Kills 99% of all bacteria. Yeah, that should do it. And staring at the wall. Just staring at a blank wall. For hours. You know, I could try to find the phone number of the kingpin and you could start a little club or something. During a conversation, Briegel and Chili realize that the arms of their client are way too short to actually stab someone. To do anything really. A running joke since day 1 of the character. However, Mr. Bush makes things in court as worse as the other one did in the Middle East. As a scientist, he quickly builds a machine demonstrating that with the right tools, Bernd could indeed kill someone. Briegel invents all kinds of far-fetched theories what went really on, including claiming that the janitor is in a blood feud with the other guy, going back to the freaking 12th century. Roll on intuition!
I mean, I've just got all the documents.
During all this, Bernd finally remembers. He went over to the other apartment with a knife because he ordered a pizza, and because his oh-so-great friends took his means of payment, he wanted to ask his neighborino for some cash. Chili starts to attack the prosecutor by annoying him with the good old "no, you are" routine, until Mr. Executor snaps and yells he should have sent the 2 even further away, at which point Bernd removes the final bits of fog clouding his mind. The circle in his vision wasn't a plate, but a frying pan, and the eyes on it were his own reflection. The reason he remembers 2 noses was because there was a cosmetic one stuck on a mirror, bleeding in with the face of the perpetrator. The man admits everything, how he spread the rumor of Bernd's awful relationship, how he planted evidence, and how he changed into the most monotonous person in the world to become the crusty guy's friend. Why? Because with Bernd gone, there would finally be good television again, art, culture, instead of nonsense. In hindsight, switching the channels might have been easier. And so the movie ends with our poor Sepp having won his freedom back, and the trio going on another vacation. To make Bernd finally homeless, I guess. But we are not done yet. This DVD includes a double feature. The next film is Brot Olympia. We open up somewhere in the snowy mountains, in the little village of
Niedergorgelsaubachtal.
You know how people often encounter a word in a different language and they simply say, I won't even try to pronounce that? It is weird to have that with your own mother's tongue. They meet Frankenstein. Wow, clever. Arch nemesis of Briegel, who never accepted that the green guy was better at math on the Dr. Jekyll and Hyde School for highly gifted people and plants.
What the fuck did you just say?
Dr. Frank challenges Briegel to compete in the local Olympic Games to determine who of them is smarter. Said games are a series of ridiculous challenges having nothing to do with intelligence. It's a talking bread, people. I'm not going to question it, and neither should you. Also, he has a titanium robot arm and it malfunctions all the time.
With a spirit of bold curiosity for the adventure ahead. Ha!
You know, if you want to be seen as a brilliant scientist, maybe you should make sure that at least your primary invention works correctly. We also meet my favorite character in this whole thing, the radio announcer who broadcasts to maybe a dozen people, most of which are these German hillbillies, who is dreadfully aware that if his career would be any more dead, it would have been never born. Also, I like how all these extras in the background look completely bored and done with everything. I know this is on purpose, since this is making fun of how completely uninteresting ski hot events are, but part of me thinks this is very much genuine, considering they are being paid for an entire film day to just sit around. Anyway, the first game begins, and it's a who can eat the most task. Bernd, who I remind you,
look carefully at the I really wish I weren't here right now button,
is forced to compete with his frenemies. Sheep and Bush eat too much, which is why Bernd has to continue without them for now. In the semi-finals, they have to hammer some nails, but Briegel turns the tool of his rival into a pickle. Stop! It's pickle time! Frankenstein is only amused by this attempt, as he reminds the crowd that he doesn't need a hammer, since he got an indestructible hand. But that doesn't work so well, as he mistakenly uses his flesh hand. Now you would think with him out of the race, this would be the end. But the thing is, a lot of these are not fully thought out movies, but a compilation of episodes for certain events, this being for the winter season, so the trio continues a few more challenges. Chili builds an igloo which collapses and buries her, and the Bushman making Bernd run around in panic, wondering how he is supposed to help them with his short arms. He tries his best, but nothing works. All of that desperation is pointless, however, as we find out that the two escaped a long time ago and just keep watching for their own personal enjoyment. You know, usually you have the uptight straight man punished by bad luck, his own deeds, or his friends which are well-meaning but make some mistakes. But this is the first time I see this type of setup, where the friends are actively revel in the misery. And it's not like Bernd is an a-hole or something, he's just grumpy. The movie ultimately ends with Bernd going down the ski ramp and crushing into the provisional radio station, thereby releasing the radio man from his limbo. We don't actually see him go down though, which, you already made this huge ramp. I would have been fine with just watching an early 2000s CGI Bernd, or heck, a doll go down. Just something, you know? The first movie is pretty decent, the second one is Bernd in his weaker form. The crime case is without irony a very well done mystery. They don't give you enough hints to figure it out before the final reveal, but they give you enough hints to make you aware that something is off and keep you guessing. I personally prefer the type of mystery you can figure out on your own, provided there's enough information. The radio guy in the second story is the only thing that is the type of smart humor that the adults can also enjoy. Normally there would be way more clever one-liners. It's not terrible, but Bernd usually entertains all the way. But here it did not click for me. Next time, Bernd will become a rock star. So until then, have fun. I'm Zgermanguy. I'm out. Und auf Wiedersehen. I knew that educational performance would go down as soon as you let bushes into the schools.